I spent 2 hours yesterday talking about something that you brought up in the last break, and that is the amount of federal money that states are literally got two crutches with two broken legs right now that they're hanging on to, and pretty soon the crutches are going to get kicked out from underneath. I mean, Harry Brown, libertarian candidate many years ago, was right. He said the government breaks your legs and then says, hey, I'm here to help you. I got some crutches for you. And it's... it's really worrisome. I mean, $4.5 billion here in the state budget, but with the federal money we get, it's like $24 billion. What happens, since we're borrowing 40 cents on a dollar, if, they don't do what they need to do up in Washington, D.C., and it implodes?
Well,
every state implodes, doesn't it, after that?
Yeah, but the first step, like as with any problem, is to acknowledge that we have a problem and communicate it.
Sounds like a 12-step program.
Well, hey, it's going to be more than 12 probably. But really the first step is telling folks that, hey, when our state government, folks in our state government brag about having a balanced budget or all that, that's fine. But just remember, that's only one tiny piece of the money we spend. If anything at the federal level is diminished, any funding at the federal level at all is diminished on any front, whether it's the forestry deal that we saw, whether it's Medicaid, whatever it is, that totally subsumes and renders irrelevant what we've done elsewhere because, as you said, far more money comes into the state from the federal government than we generate, for ourselves in terms of state revenue. And so we always, yes, we're happy that the state balances, no doubt about it. That's a good thing that we work on that and have revenue stabilization and all that. But we've got to always remember that's a tiny piece, relatively small piece of the broader pie. And what has happened is we have not been, in my view, it's not that we collectively, it's not that we have necessarily said untruth or provided misinformation intentionally about the way government's funded. But because we've been silent on a lot of this, we have misled our citizens. For example, you see on the outside of a lot of our agencies, Arkansas Department of X, and you think, that's an Arkansas agency. That's not a federal agency. That's funded by Arkansas taxpayers. That's different than the one in Washington because it's federal. And I have direct interaction with this one because it's right here in my backyard. But in many, many, many cases, it's misleading because it says state of Arkansas on the outside of the building. But a very, very significant percentage of all the activity that goes on behind that door is federal. And without the federal money, that I understand why states take it. I mean, as we heard in the Supreme Court on the third day on the Medicaid arguments, it's something that states have to have, can't refuse, whatever. But a lot of we have not been proactive in informing people of the truth. Really, if you took a map of every state capital in the country and lined up with all of their agencies that are usually in a complex, down around the Capitol, wherever, right, and you labeled them a certain color for 100% state, no federal funding, you would probably find that there's not one that's 100% state. And then you would find that the overwhelming majority are significantly federal, 25, 50%, whatever it is. And then you start to say, wait a minute, then that sort of, that nullifies the advantage of having state government closer to the citizen. Because in the end, it's the equivalent of the federal government taking over pieces of the state government. So it's a way for the federal government to swallow up our state governments while they still look like state governments and they, for the most part, act like state governments. When you start following the money, you find out
Majority
that
comes from the Fed.
you're sending your dollar to Washington so it can be cut in half and support all the stuff that's being built up there and all the workers and everything up there, and then they send it back to you as 50 cents. When it would be much more efficient if you could give that dollar directly. If it's going to go to the Department of X anyway in your state, why not give the whole dollar?
Yeah, block grant it up.
Yeah.
I'm all for that.
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of us just want that conversation to begin. Not that there's some great revelation on the solution side. I have ideas on that, but the first thing is to just get people to have that conversation about, you know what, half of our state government, or whatever the percentage is, whatever the state is, it's not even state government. It's mislabeled. What if you went down around the Capitol and a lot of those buildings said 50% federal, 25%? Then you'd be like, wow, didn't realize that a lot of these buildings are federal agencies in a costume. They're in a state costume.
Yeah.
And that destroys the whole purpose of the federalism that is found in the Constitution that James Madison was such a advocate for.
And was the reason that he did not believe that we needed a Bill of Rights. He thought if you get a Bill of Rights, then they would just expand off of that.
Yeah.
You know, that's what, Monroe wanted, the Bill of Rights.
Yeah.
Madison didn't want it.
Well, luckily, the Bill of Rights has served us well, luckily, because they have served to restrict this government. Although, as you noted during the break, the Commerce Clause argument obviously is not in the Bill of Rights. It has to do with the powers of Congress in Section 8 of Article 1.
Yeah. We'll come back and let you get in on the conversation. 433-0092, your questions for Ed Gillespie or Congressman Griffin here on the Dave Elswick Show. Hey, I apologize. I've taken up most of the time, but let's get David in here. We'll get him a question in with the Congressman. David, your question for Congressman Griffin.
Yes, sir. I was just wondering two things specifically. Number one, what is the congressman going to do about baseline budgeting, and how do we be able to eliminate that? And then the second thing is that if we're able to get the congressman reelected, will he vote again for John Boehner for Speaker? Because that person is the most legally spying rhino I've ever known in my life, and I haven't met him personally.
All right. I'll let you listen in. Baseline budgeting.
Baseline budgeting, I have made very clear that I am for changing it, as I indicated earlier. You know, it's very frustrating. I wish... I mean, that is a budget reform that I think we ought to make unilaterally in the House, and I've been advocating for that. I think it has to do with getting everybody using the same system. I'll support it any way I can. I'll vote for it. I'll cheerlead for it. I'll make speeches on it. There are a whole host of reforms that go to the heart of the way the House and the Senate and the federal government more broadly operates that I am for changing. I think they've been a part of the problem, and I'm all for fixing it. Last time, there was only one person who ran for Speaker. It was he was unopposed. Speaker Boehner was unopposed. And if he's unopposed, then obviously there won't be, it'll be a voice unanimous consent deal. If someone runs against the Speaker, I haven't heard anybody who's floating their name, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens on that. I will tell you that that he is great to work with, and we'll take one day at a time. But he's been a good friend, and look, I don't agree with everybody all the time.
That really hurts my feelings.
Except for Dave. I don't agree with everybody all the time, and there's some things that each and everybody in leadership does that I don't agree with. But right now, I'm not the quarterback of the team, and I, when I disagree, I go the other way. And I vote against leadership when I do. Luckily for me, leadership or the party in the House in general is conservative, and so most of the time my conservative beliefs are consistent most of the time with what's going on in the House. But I know you hadn't met him. He will be coming down here at some point, and maybe I can get him to a place where you can meet him. Maybe I can get him on the show. But as I said last time, no one ran against him.
All right. We're out of time. Ed, we didn't get to talk to you hardly at all.
I came to listen to Tim.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Well, that's a first.
Appreciate you being here. It's Dave Elswick Show, back after the news.
Thank you.
This is your